Just 7 races stand between now and the end of the 2024 Formula One season, and the stakes couldn't be higher. This weekend, the spotlight is on the Singapore Grand Prix, a race that has the potential to turn the entire championship upside down. Teams are pulling out all the stops, introducing massive upgrades that could either make or break their chances. But here's the real kicker: Ferrari, with Charles Leclerc still holding on to hope, is pushing forward in a last-ditch effort to secure the Constructors' Championship. Could this be their game changer? Or will it all unravel in the heat of Marina Bay's notoriously challenging street circuit? Stick around, because I'm diving deep into the crucial upgrades and strategies that could redefine the season for Ferrari, McLaren, and Red Bull. Believe me, you don't want to miss what's coming. The Singapore Grand Prix is poised to be a pivotal moment in this year's Formula One season, with several teams bringing forward critical upgrades that could shape the championship's outcome. With only 7 races remaining, every decision counts, and for Ferrari, the stakes couldn't be higher. Charles Leclerc finds himself 19 points behind Lando Norris and a daunting 78 points behind Max Verstappen. While the odds of a driver's championship for Leclerc seem slim, they are far from out of reach. In Formula One, as we know, anything can happen, and fast. What's even more compelling is Ferrari's hunt for the Constructors' Championship. Despite a frustrating setback when Carlos Sainz was forced to retire from the Japanese Grand Prix, Ferrari is still in the game. They trail McLaren by just 51 points, a gap that may seem wide but is certainly not insurmountable with 7 races still on the calendar. For Ferrari, the focus now is not just on driver standings but on solidifying their position in the Constructors' Championship. They know that every point is crucial, and missing out on opportunities could mean the difference between victory and defeat. This weekend in Singapore, Ferrari is gambling big by fast-tracking some significant upgrades, including a flexible front wing. This upgrade wasn't planned for this race, but was originally intended for the next round in Austin. The hope is that it will provide the performance boost they need to close the gap to McLaren and Red Bull, and maybe even surprise everyone by making a strong comeback. But fast-tracking such upgrades carries immense risk, especially when they haven't yet been tested in race conditions. Can Ferrari's gamble pay off, or could it backfire, jeopardizing their chances even further? All eyes will be on how this decision unfolds at the Marina Bay circuit. Ferrari has a strong history at this track. In recent years, they've consistently performed well in Singapore. Last year, Carlos Sainz pulled off the incredible feat of being the only driver to beat Red Bull all season, and in 2022, Ferrari secured 2nd and 3rd positions with Leclerc and Sainz. This gives the team a certain level of confidence heading into this weekend. But the Singapore Grand Prix race is notorious for being unpredictable, with its challenging track conditions often creating a field of surprises. The quickfire series of 4 races after the summer break comes to an end this weekend at the Marina Bay Street Circuit, home to the Singapore Grand Prix. Known for its demanding layout, this track is a place where even the most dominant teams struggle. Last year, it was the only race Red Bull didn't win, and this year, their chances of victory seem just as slim. The Milton Keynes-based team has been off the pace for several months now, struggling with issues that date all the way back to the 2023 Spanish Grand Prix. Red Bull's troubles aren't minor. The issues they face will not be fixed overnight, leaving them in a difficult position. For now, their primary goal is to hang on to Max Verstappen's commanding lead in the Drivers' Championship. With Verstappen so far ahead, the only hope for rivals like Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc is for them to outscore Max consistently over the next 7 races. Lando Norris needs to outpace Verstappen by nearly 8.5 points per race, while Leclerc faces an even steeper climb, needing to gain over 11 points per race. However, the fierce battle between Norris and Leclerc for 2nd place might work in Verstappen's favor. Both drivers are pushing hard, and every point counts. This means they could end up battling each other so intensely that they lose sight of Verstappen altogether, allowing him to secure the championship with room to spare. But if anyone can shake things up, it's Ferrari. They've made it clear to the rest of the grid they're not here to play games anymore. In Singapore, they're ready to push hard and make life difficult for their competitors. Ferrari's goal is simple: maximize every opportunity from here on out. They cannot afford any more missed chances if they hope to close down the gap to Norris and McLaren. Singapore has been a strong track for Ferrari in recent years, and they're banking on their history of good performances here to give them an edge. In 2022, Leclerc and Sainz finished second and third, while last year Sainz was the only driver who managed to beat Red Bull over the entire season. Team principal Fred Vasseur has emphasized the importance of making every race count from now on. After a tough race in Baku, he made it clear that Ferrari's competitive level is high, and they won't let their setbacks define the rest of their season. Singapore's unique street circuit poses a challenge for every team, but Ferrari's drivers enjoy racing here. Their success will depend on how well they can continue the momentum they've built in the last few races. This track could be the perfect place for Ferrari to stage a comeback, but it will take more than just a strong history to pull off the victory they need. Singapore's Marina Bay Street Circuit is notorious for being one of the toughest tracks on the calendar, not just because of its challenging layout, but also because of the sweltering conditions that take a toll on both drivers and cars. The track's bumpy surface and tight corners have often been the downfall of even the best teams. Throughout the last decade, we've seen Mercedes, during their years of dominance, struggle to find their footing here. And now, Red Bull, who have been the powerhouse in recent seasons, find themselves facing similar challenges. For Ferrari, this presents a golden opportunity. The conditions in Singapore tend to shuffle the deck, giving teams that have struggled on other circuits a chance to shine. Historically, Ferrari has performed well in Singapore, and their car seems well suited for this track. But that's not to say the race will be a walk in the park. McLaren, who have been Ferrari's biggest rival this season, also arrive with momentum and their own set of upgrades. Fred Vasseur, Ferrari's team principal, knows that Singapore offers them a unique chance to close the gap to McLaren. After the race in Baku, he pointed out that if Ferrari could perform well in races where the tracks favored them, it was a positive indicator for their chances in Singapore. The characteristics of the Marina Bay circuit, with its demanding slow corners, play to Ferrari's strengths. However, while Ferrari may have an advantage in cornering and tire management, they remain vulnerable on straights, where McLaren holds a clear edge. One of McLaren's secret weapons this season has been their flexible front wing, which the FIA has allowed them to use until the end of the year. This innovative design gives McLaren an advantage in reducing drag on straights without compromising the downforce they need for corners. During the race in Baku, McLaren's Oscar Piastri showed just how effective this design could be, helping McLaren dominate the high-speed sections of the track. Now, Ferrari is planning to counter that with their own version of a flexible front wing, set to debut in Singapore. This is a bold move for Ferrari. Their new front wing was originally scheduled to be introduced at the next race in Austin, but they've fast-tracked its development in the hopes that it will give them the edge they need in Singapore. The wing, designed to mimic McLaren's flexible elements, has the potential to improve Ferrari's straight-line speed. However, fast-tracking such a critical component comes with significant risk. If the new wing doesn't perform as expected, it could upset the car's entire aerodynamic balance, potentially costing Ferrari valuable points. Ferrari's decision to fast-track this crucial upgrade comes under the guidance of team principal Fred Vasseur and the head of aerodynamics, Diego Tondi. Their hope is that the new front wing will provide the necessary boost in performance that Ferrari needs to challenge McLaren in the closing races. The front wing, as the first part of the car to interact with airflow, plays a critical role in the overall aerodynamic performance of the car. If the wing can reduce drag while maintaining downforce through the corners, Ferrari could close the gap to McLaren. But this gamble is not without its risks. Optimizing the composite materials used to allow for flexibility at high speeds without compromising the overall aerodynamics of the car is a highly complex task. The challenge for Ferrari is replicating the level of sophistication that McLaren has achieved in their front wing, but doing so in a much shorter time frame. If Ferrari can't get this right, the new wing could cause more harm than good, potentially destabilizing the car's balance, especially in the high-speed sections of the Singapore circuit. While McLaren has been refining their flexible wing over multiple races, Ferrari is essentially going in blind with this last-minute upgrade. Even though the Singapore track shares some similarities with Baku, where Ferrari performed well, they haven't had the opportunity to test the new front wing in real-world conditions. This means they are stepping into the unknown, with no guarantee that the upgrade will provide the performance boost they're hoping for. That said, Ferrari has a history of taking bold risks, and they know that in Formula One, sometimes those risks are what separate winners from losers. Their ability to adapt on the fly will be put to the test, and if their gamble pays off, they could find themselves right back in the fight for both the Constructors' and Drivers' Championships. On the other hand, if the wing doesn't deliver the expected results, it could spell disaster for the team, potentially setting them back even further in the standings. McLaren, however, won't be standing still. Andrea Stella, McLaren's team principal, has confirmed that McLaren will also be bringing their own upgrades over the coming races. While they've been more cautious about revealing specifics, McLaren's methodical approach to rolling out small but effective upgrades has worked wonders so far this season. They've shown that a steady stream of improvements can deliver consistent results without the need for big, risky leaps. As Ferrari heads into the Singapore Grand Prix with their fingers crossed for the new front wing, McLaren's Andrea Stella remains tight-lipped about the specifics of his team's upcoming upgrades. However, he did confirm that they've been finalizing plans for an upgrade package that could further strengthen their car's performance before the season ends. Stella hinted that McLaren has a few tricks up their sleeve, but instead of revealing everything up front, he's letting the FIA documents do the talking. Teams are required to submit technical details of any new or upgraded components to the FIA before each Grand Prix, with that information made public on Friday morning. McLaren's strategy of rolling out smaller, incremental upgrades since their major package in Miami has clearly paid off. The team now leads the Constructors' Championship, and their consistency on the track suggests that they've been managing their budget wisely. By carefully planning their upgrades, McLaren could have more funds available for further developments as the season reaches its climax. This might give them a performance edge in the final few races, just as Ferrari is pouring resources into their risky front wing upgrade. The stakes couldn't be higher for Ferrari and McLaren. For Lando Norris to have any chance of clinching the driver's title, McLaren's upgrades need to be flawless. If they can hold off Ferrari and continue maximizing the performance of their car, Norris could edge closer to Verstappen in the point standings. But if Ferrari's new front wing proves to be the breakthrough they need, it could throw a wrench into McLaren's plans and reignite Ferrari's championship hopes. Every remaining Grand Prix is crucial. Ferrari's success or failure hinges on whether their last-minute upgrade delivers the performance gains they need. The question is, will Ferrari's new flexible front wing be enough to close the gap in straight-line speed and allow them to challenge McLaren for the championship? Or will the hasty upgrade backfire, hampering their progress instead of helping it? The battle for the Constructors' and Drivers' Championships is coming down to the wire, and both teams will need every advantage they can get. So what do you think? Will Ferrari's gamble on the front wing pay off and give them the edge they need to fight back? Or will McLaren's steady approach to upgrades keep them at the top? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and until next time, drive safe and stay tuned for more updates.